Hi guys, welcome back. It's Susie. So this is story time part 2 of my sister Tori. So like I mentioned in my last video at the end, we had to go down to Tucson, file the missing persons report, get her belongings from the police station, and I'm telling you that we rented like this kind of ratty hotel in a bad area in Tucson, and I had to go through her purse, like the purse that I knew was hers, and so, like I mentioned, I found like all of her. Cause she was kind of a hoarder, like me and my parents are, and she just had all of these cards that she had saved that when she lived here in our hometown, like I said, mentioned like her kids' medical cards, her ex-husband's medical cards, her cards, like her Days Penny cards, her Bell's card, her Denny's card, and she even saved like I had sent her a Christmas card the year before in December, and so this was December of 2011, and I mailed it to my brother's old address in Tucson, and she saved it. And I don't know what happened to that card, but it was all tattered and worn, and it was just really sweet that she saved it. And so I'm going through all of these things that she needed. She had like a pocket, or like a, not a pocket knife, but like a kitchen knife in her purse. So I don't know if where she was. I'm pretty sure it was where she went missing was a very dangerous area in Tucson. And so I don't know what kind of people she was hanging out with. I don't know if the boyfriend hung with a bad crowd or if the sister-in-law was with the wrong people. But for whatever reason, I remember very vividly there was a kitchen knife in her purse. And so this was 8 years ago, so it's kind of foggy, but I'm just recalling everything that I can remember. So I get to the bottom of her purse, and she always wore a Mickey watch, no matter what, no matter where she went. And just like me, I always have my watch on, and my dad's the same way. He always wears a watch. We're just like that. Mm. But ever since I can remember, she's worn a watch, a Mickey watch specifically, and I find Mickey at the bottom of her purse, and I start bawling, like I break down in tears, like she left Mickey, or something really bad happened. She wouldn't have left Mickey. And granted, the watch wasn't working, but still, it was just heartbreaking seeing that. And I knew at that point in time something really bad happened to her. And so it takes me a while. Like I said, I'd never cry. Like my sister and my mom, they're the criers in the family. They can, like I mentioned in my other video, they can cry at the drop of a hat, basically. And I'm just not that type of person. It takes a lot to make me cry. And I usually only cry when I lose loved ones. I got real emotional in my story time about my dog Blue. I missed her so much, and she meant a lot to me. She really helped me that year and a half I took care of her. But I was just devastated. I was tired from the trip, tired of running around Tucson. So we had traveled like the 6.5 hour trip that day, gone straight to the sheriff's office, filed the missing persons report, dropped off the sister-in-law with her kids wherever she wanted. Rented this hotel, and I was just done. And so I laid down that night to go to sleep. And I always, like I mentioned in my acne video, I always sleep on my left side, and I have for years. It's my good ear, so once my good ear is plugged, like I can sleep. Like I don't hear anything, and so I'm getting ready to go to sleep. My eyes are closed, my head is on the pillow, and all I could hear is my sister's voice. Sue, she like very close members of my family are the only people who call me Sue. So I hear, Sue, come find me, in her voice, and immediately I just start breaking down. I start crying again. And so I don't know if that was her spirit or her blood crying from the earth. But she was murdered a month before. And we didn't find this information out until a year later. So October of 2013, I started at the hospital. The very day I started, I believe it was October 18th, 2013, I started at the Native American hospital here. And I remember I had to go to orientation. I had to go to the HR department. It was a government job, so I had to like do fingerprints and like background checks, and it was like the whole works. And I think after I had all of that process done, that's when I got the call from the detective, and he was like, because, so let me backtrack. So she went missing for a year, and they called us, I believe in September of 2013. So it's kind of hard to think back that far and to remember dates. So October 13th, the detective on her case calls us, and he tells us that we have news about. He called her Victoria, and that's her legal name. And like me and my parents, like the whole family is like over the moon, and we're like, oh, we're hoping for the best. We're optimistic, and so he's like, get as many family members as you can, and tell us where to meet you, and we'll go over this important news with you and your family. And so he didn't sound sad or like upset or disappointed or like not somebody who would give you bad news. Basically, it sounded like good news, and so we were like stoked. So I mentioned that she had tried to bring us to church. She was the reason we got to church, and she ended up starting this church. And so in my other videos I talk about Pastor John, and so I was a board member. I had a key to the church. I asked him permission. Hey, we're gonna get news about my sister. Is it okay if me and my family meet there? They did have like a separate conference hall or a separate area where tables and like chairs were set up, and he's like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Usually they charged for that type of event, but since I was a board member, he did let me and my family meet for free with these detectives. And so let's call him Detective J. So Detective J brings his side man, his wingman. They get this helicopter, and they fly to we have like a small little airport in the town I'm in, and so they fly their helicopter into this town, and then they take a rental car. They're like, give us the address. And so I gave them the address, and they met us there. And so my auntie that helped raise me, so my grandma raised my sister, my brother, my mom's one of her older sisters raised me. So I can't remember if she's the oldest or the second oldest. But my auntie was sitting on my right side. My mom was on my right. My auntie was on my left. And so Detective J, he starts talking about my sister, and we're all hopeful. We're all ears. Like my mom's side of the family, my dad's side, we're like, we just hope it's good news. And so he starts off with, thank you guys for coming and meeting us. And, my name is Detective J. I've been assigned to Victoria's case, and I just want to let you guys know that we found Victoria's remains in the desert. And then, kind of like in the movies where that, like, ping or that loud sound goes off like that, and everything after that sentence, I don't really remember. And immediately my body starts trembling. I'm shaking so hard. My auntie's like, honey, are you cold? Like, because she puts her hand on my leg, and my body's shaking, like, uncontrollably. Like, I'm shaking this table. And I kind of, like, zone out for a minute, and then I just, like, whisper, no, I'm okay. And I was just, like, a deer caught in the headlights. And I was just like, he just told me my sister's gone, my sister's gone. And I couldn't really process it at that point in time. And I was still shaking, still trembling, and it wasn't cold in there. and that was just my body's reaction to like the most devastating news I've ever had in my life, besides my grandma, you know. And he's like, we need more information. We need, did she leave behind like a bag, a purse, a phone, you know? And my mom was like, Sue, like she was trying to snap me out of it. Sue, her phone. Remember, we have her phone at our house. And so they're like, can you get it? And I'm still in shock. I'm just like, just stunned. I'm like, yeah, I can go get it. And so I was in no place or state of mind to have been driving, but I drove back to my mom and dad's house. I knew where her phone was and her purse, those two bags, coach bag and her regular purse, and I had to give them her phone. And one of the specific pictures I remember on her phone was before she went missing, and she cut her hair. And she took a picture, she threw it in the trash, and she took a picture of her hair in the trash. So I don't know how much hair she had cut off. Like I said, her hair was really long like mine. And in the Pentecostal faith, you're not supposed to cut your hair. And I can touch on another video about that. It's very taboo. They never tell you why you shouldn't cut your hair. They just force all these rules on you. No makeup, no jewelry, don't cut your hair, wear skirts, you know. And I'm not saying they're like authoritative, that's just their rules. So basically, if you join any type of religious group, you have to abide by their rules, and this is just the Pentecostals rules. And I learned the hard way why you shouldn't cut your hair, and I can go into a Pentecostal video about that if you guys are interested in that. That's been on my heart too, to make a video. So I'm not saying she went missing because she cut her hair. I'm not saying all of these bad things happened because she cut her hair, but it was a big factor in why all of these things went wrong. And I'm just piecing that together right now as I'm telling you. So I get back to my mom and dad's house, and I let out this cry. I knew that was the only point in time that I was able to let out my emotions without anybody being around. Like I'm a very private person. I don't like crying in front of people. I don't like showing a vulnerable side. So this is very vulnerable for me. This is very out of character for me to let my emotions out on camera and document it and voice my opinion and my stories. So I let out this cry that I still don't know what it is, and I've never been able to replicate it again in my life. I don't know how to describe it, if it was like a war cry or just this I was in so much pain and so much grief. I had so much hurt. Like, I just learned my sister was gone, and I was never gonna see her on this planet again. And I just cried. I just broke down and I cried. And I just let it all out. And I just wailed. I don't know for how long. It felt like a very long time. It could have just been a few minutes. You know, this woman I loved, that I looked up to, that I cared so much about, that I thought this trip was gonna be good news. I just cried. Because it broke me. It broke my heart. It broke my spirit. I mean, even now, just talking about it, you know, I'm reliving that pain from that day. I was just so broken. So I try to get myself together. I try to wipe away the tears. And I like I said, I shouldn't have been driving. And I drive myself back to the church, and I give the detectives what they want. I give them her possessions. I give them her phone and her bags. And then they just, like, point blank, we need a DNA sample. We need a sample from you and your mom and dad, since you're the closest living relatives to her. So that was hard. So they swabbed our mouths, and then they wanted to interview us like one-on-one. So they took my dad into one room, closed the door. They took my mom into the sanctuary, interviewed her in private, and then it was my turn. So I walked into the sanctuary, and if you ever gone to church, it's like a beautiful area. It's basically where the presence of God lives. And I remember walking in there. It wasn't Detective J, it was his wingman that interviewed me, and he had his little notepad out. And all I could tell him was, my sister helped start this church. And I looked around at the pews. We had pews then. And just sad that she was gone. And that the only reason I was in that church was because of her. And in her room, she has all of these pictures. That's what I keep looking at. I don't know if you guys have noticed in my videos, I keep looking at all these pictures. And there's some of me, some of her kids, my brother's kids, and it's just sad admitting that she's not with us anymore, and I've been holding on to this for so long. I've been holding on to her for so long. Like I said, almost 9 years. It's been almost 9 years. It feels like yesterday. I don't know if anybody has lost another loved one. You know, anybody that you love, that you've lost. And I don't know if you're going through the same thing as me. But it's sad. It's okay. It's okay to cry. I like I said, I don't cry. I'm not a crier. Even now, this is really shocking. I've been holding this in for all these years, and it's okay to cry. It's okay to miss them. I miss you so much, Tori. Okay, I'll be back, okay?